Good evening. Tonight is Monday, June 17th, 2024, and we'll call to order this evening's meeting of Gahanna City Council. First, I'd like to ask Councilman Weaver to deliver the invocation and Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
Thank you. In the words of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr., God grant that this tragic midnight of man's inhumanity to man will soon pass, and the bright daybreak of freedom and brotherhood will come into being. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mr. Van Meter, would you please call the roll?
Bowers.
Here.
Jones.
Here.
McGregor is absent. Padova.
Here.
Renner.
Here.
Schnetzer.
Here.
Weaver.
Here.
Thank you. Are there any additions or corrections to the agenda? All right. We will move on to the presentation section of our agenda. The first item on tonight's agenda is a resolution presentation of the Juneteenth resolution. Councilwoman Jones, would you like to address this resolution's presentation?
Thank you. So Juneteenth is coming up this Wednesday, the 19th. Juneteenth, also known as Emancipation Day or Freedom Day, is celebrated each year. And it marks the day when Union troops in Galveston, Texas, ensured that all of the enslaved African Americans there were aware that they were in fact free. And so this is a pivotal moment in our American history. It's a holiday that embodies the ideals of liberation, opportunity, and prosperity, which is why I felt it was fitting to recognize on this historic day Gahanna resident Keena Smith, who is the founder and CEO of the Women's Center for Economic Opportunity, or WCEO. WCEO equips, elevates, and empowers African American and other women of color to access the knowledge and resources they need to create generational wealth and a legacy of economic impact while staying well. In doing so, they advance economic equity, inclusion, and justice. Ms. Keena is an inspiration to many and consistently pours into others while uplifting the community as a whole. So in recognition of Juneteenth, we'd like to say thank you for your work, your inspiration, and for building a legacy that all of our ancestors have dreamed of. Ms. Keena and some of the members of WCEO are here today, so I'd like to invite everyone forward to take a photo with council and then followed by any remarks.
Thank you.
Don't go so fast.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it so much. Thank you. I wish I had got a chance to.
Oh, no, thank you so much for being here. Nobody's ever done that before. Sweet.
That would be awesome. Thank you, council members, and greetings, Mayor Jadwin, President Bowers, and members of City Council. As the founder and CEO of the Women's Center for Economic Opportunity, it is with immense gratitude that I received this resolution. Thank you all. I am humbled to receive it in a place where I have raised my two children, who are graduates of Gahanna Lincoln High School and where we have called home for nearly 25 years. I'm humbled to receive it on behalf of the women who stand with me today and the thousands of others who are members of our Business Accelerator community. They are brave, fierce, persistent, and successful women business owners. They are women who freely pursue their dreams of prosperity and who freely use their talents and resources to improve the quality of life for every resident in our city, our county, our state, and our nation. And that's why we commemorate Juneteenth, because it marks the 1865 date in American history when all Americans, every American, could live out the words of the Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, and that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And yes, that goes for women too. I'm joined this evening by members of WCEO. Please introduce yourselves super quickly. We have 3 minutes, super quickly, name, and from where you are, just give us your name and your business.
Hi, my name is Latanya Settles, and I'm the CEO of Fit for Life Health Fitness and Lifestyle Center.
Hello, my name is Tia Johnson, and I am the owner of Fresh Bloom Bins.
Hi, I'm Lucretia Tallison, and I'm the owner of Seeds for Success Coaching.
And I'm Beatrice McCory, CEO of McCory LLC.
Victoria Murray, Inbox Virtual Associates. Regina Allison, CEO of Research Pro.
Dr. Erica Fryer, founder and CEO of Athletic Learning.
Ashifa Lacey, CEO and founder of Faith-Based Mentors and Inspiring Women.
Jake Fletcher, CEO and founder, Paul Gone Good Holistic Pet Care.
Thank you, ladies. We are super proud of all that they are contributing to the vitality of our communities. And I have to mention our Gahanna business owner, Fatima Boyer. She's the owner of Whole You Fitness Studio, which is located on Hamilton Road, right next to the Diamond Studio. She was delayed from a trip she went on vacation to Spain and was delayed coming back, so she missed us this evening, but we wanted to definitely mention her. So again, Councilmember Jones and all members of council and Mayor Jadwin, we thank you. God bless.
Very good. Thank you.
Any further remarks tonight?
Just a thank you. Thank you, Keena, for being here. Thank you to the CEOs for being here. And thank you for all that you do to support your families and impact the community at large. So thank you.
All right. Thank you again so much. The next item on presentations, we have a presentation from COTA, Central Ohio Transit Authority, on the Link Us project. Tonight, we are joined by Monica Tellez Fowler, President CEO of COTA, Kimberly Sharp, the Senior Director of Development for COTA, and Elliot Lewis, Principal Planner with MORPC.
Good evening, Council President Bowers and members of the Gahanna City Council. My name is Monica Tellez Fowler. I am the new President and CEO of the Central Ohio Transit Authority, and Gahanna happens to be where I now call home. I want to thank you for the opportunity to share more about COTA and the Link Us initiative with you. Thanks to the collaboration with the City of Columbus, Franklin County, and MORPC, and with engagement from Gahanna and other communities, Link Us is Central Ohio's comprehensive transportation and mobility plan to help address growth, affordability, sustainability, and opportunity in our region. Link Us is also a big part, as a part of a big year for COTA, as we're celebrating 50 years of serving the region. With a team of more than 1,100 employees, we currently provide fixed route bus transit, paratransit, and microtransit across 562 miles, including lines 24, 25, and 46 right here in Gahanna. In May, the Board of Trustees approved official action to place a COTA levy on the November 5th ballot initiative. If approved by voters, it will create a dedicated funding stream for expanded, modernized public transit and infrastructure that the region deserves. I've worked in transit for nearly 15 years, and I've witnessed how public transit can truly transform lives for the better. It is time to move away from being the largest region without rapid, modern transit and create a mobility ecosystem that works for all modes, including transit, bikes, cars, and everything in between. The plan you'll see tonight showcases a bright future for our region, and we all stand ready to bring this to a reality for us. Again, thank you for the opportunity, and with that, I'm going to turn it over to CODA Senior Director of Development, Kimberly Sharp, and Elliot Lewis, Principal Planner from our friends at MORPC, to walk you through the Link Us plan.
Thank you, President Tyus Fowler. Hello, Council. Thank you, Mayor Jadwin. Thank you for having us this evening. I'm super excited to present something we've been working on for many years. And as a region, we've been working on this plan about growth for many years through Insight 2050 corridors, concepts, and other planning documents. We have known that the growth is coming. And am I doing this right? But I think that as a community, you're feeling that growth, both the challenges and the opportunities intimately. It's in your backyard, and it's even in your front yard. So with that, this is really about the growth in the region, how to move people. 1 million more people are coming. You can't have 1 million more cars on the road. The affordability, housing prices are going up. The pricing of everything is going up, and yet the workforce needs places to live. Our students need places to live. And so it's really about being able to afford to live, work, and thrive in our region, and opportunity gaps. Addressing those opportunity gaps, there are 40,000 plus Franklin County households who do not have access to a car. They still need to get to school and healthcare and work. I'm sorry, I'm learning Uri. So there are 3 main ingredients to Link Us. The number 1 ingredient is faster, more reliable public transit. 45% more transit out on the roads. And we'll describe this in more detail in just a minute. The second main ingredient is safer and expanded sidewalk, bikeways, and trails. We call that transit supportive infrastructure, and your community is highly engaged in that process. The third main ingredient is focused growth, walkable communities around that transit. It does make it challenging to get on transit at a big parking lot and then get off transit at a big parking lot, and there's a lot of walking in between. But as our community fills in, as the Columbus region becomes more dense, appropriately so, according to the community it's in, it just makes transit and walking and biking an easier choice. With these 3 main ingredients, it does address all 17 cities, 9 villages, and 17 townships in the CODA service area, which is generally all of Franklin County and a little bit of Union, Delaware, Licking, and Fairfield County, where the city limits go into those counties. I'm going to go quickly. I was asked to move quickly, but I'm happy to go back to anything if you have questions. How will this be paid for? We're talking about an $8 billion mobility infrastructure package. We worked on a reasonable financial plan, a conservative financial model that shows these items being built over 30 plus years. So with that, by state law, a transit authority in the state of Ohio can only ask for and receive 1% of the sales tax, a share, a penny of the sales tax. Right now, CODA works on 0.5%, a half a penny. Cleveland is at 1%, Cincinnati is at 0.8% for reference. So with that, we will be asking the voters this fall to let us have the other 0.5% to take us up to the full 1% permanent. With that, that's what feeds into the financial model to build this system over time. It also allows us to leverage the large federal dollars that we are tapping into, and we are in the queue for these corridors. We have to have a sustainable local revenue source to both leverage those dollars and to run the system. So with that, when we talk about bus rapid transit, we are talking about many things that equal that fast. And we're going to start a video, and I'm going to talk through these things if you can, sir. Thank you. So bus rapid transit is about level boarding. You're not stepping up into a vehicle. It's just like a train. You're getting on without stepping up or down. You also pay for your fare before you get on. All of that equals speed. But what really equals the speed is the dedicated lanes. And you'll see that the red lanes in the middle, well, kind of hot pink. I think it'd be really cool if they were hot pink. The transit-only lanes in the middle, that is how you get the speed of moving through the community. And you'll see the highlighted stations. That's showing a center station. You're also seeing much expanded sidewalks, crosswalks, dedicated bike lanes, all of those are ingredients in Link Us. Now, this was drawn over Olentangy, an illustration over Olentangy River Road. And I think most of us understand, have driven that. It's sort of a 6-lane mini highway through town. But that is all drawn within the existing right-of-way. But another important ingredient is that 3- and 4-story building. I'm sure right now that is a Cane's, which is great, but we need more density around these transit stations. It'd be great if there was a Cane's on the first floor. So with that, that's when we talk about bus rapid transit. The goal is definitely to move fast. We need transit. So the map I'm going to walk you through briefly, in the very light gray, it's kind of hard to see on the screen, is our existing system, our 38 lines, our 3,000 stops. And what we're looking at are the particular lines where 24/7 service makes sense. It will take time to grow up to that, but what we're talking about, part of the service, is increased frequencies and better transfers and connections. Now, over that, we're going to talk about the rapid transit corridors. The dark blue, the West Broad, East Main, and Northwest corridors are in progress. They're in a type of engineering. The light blue, planned for near-term study, you will see a light blue from downtown past the airport through this area on Artow towards the Intel area. Those 3 lines, we obtained Ohio Department of Transportation dollars to study, to understand what that means. And we have to do it with the municipalities along those lines. What would that mean? What type of corridor or connections or speed makes the most sense? And then the green lines you see are those that are deemed reasonable for future study based upon the growth areas, job centers, et cetera. And all of this work was done through MORPC's Metropolitan Transportation Planning process, which is a lot of data and analytics and a lot of public process. We also, the financial model also includes up to 8 new COTA Plus zones. I don't know if anyone's taken advantage of COTA Plus in Westerville, Grove City, or the south side of Columbus. It is an on-demand, there's an app, it's like Uber or Lyft, but ran by COTA. So it's $3 a ride, $2 for seniors, free if you're a student in those communities, free if also you're going to a transit stop, and it really helps people make those first mile, last mile connections. This is an example of one of our corridors, East Main Corridor, from downtown out to Reynoldsburg into Licking County. The end of the line is across from the Department of Agriculture. We're looking at 18 stations. And you can see the cost is hefty, but this is pretty much rebuilding the whole street, dealing with utilities, those better sidewalks, crosswalks, a lot of safety, ADA mechanisms, and it's really about building that system that is fast. Here's an example illustration of a center running station, and it'll deal with all the Wi-Fi, real-time arrival, et cetera. This is an example of a micro-mobility station. There's a budget for a couple of these along each corridor, and it's where at some of the busier stops you get off and there's options to use bikes or scooters, et cetera. This is an example, an illustration of the routes through Gahanna, just noting we know that there's line 7 to the airport, and as our president mentioned, line 25, line 24, 44, and 46, the express routes in the morning and the evening, line 23, Morse Road from Easton down to Eastland. And it's good to note that our goal is to increase the frequency of line 24 for the September service change. We are working on that as we speak. And then we'll, again, reconvene about that future corridor work. So with that, I'm going to stop and turn it over to my colleague, Elliot, regarding the transit supportive infrastructure.
Thank you, Kim. Thank you, Council. Hope you're taking notes because there's going to be a quiz at the end of this. So I'm going to give Kim a little bit of a break. So my name is Elliot Lewis. I'm a principal planner with the Mid-Ohio Regional Planning Commission. I also serve as the Transit Supportive Infrastructure Project Manager at MORPC. When you think of transit supportive infrastructure, don't think of like convoluted jargon, just think of the sidewalks, the bike trails, the bikeways. And we've been working with all of our municipal partners, villages, townships, all across the region to identify what are those gaps in the network that we need to fill so we can get people from your front door to the bus. I mean, all these buses, all this transit infrastructure is great, but if we don't have a way to get from where we're living to the bus, for the bus to your destination, we're missing an ingredient of a really successful mobility network. And so that's where this TSI, this transportive infrastructure component, comes in. So early on, we've identified over 500 miles of those gaps that could be filled through this program. An additional about $250 million of complete streets upgrades, so not just the trails and the sidewalks, but reimagining the road space that we have. So as part of Link Us, a little over a quarter of that additional half-cent sales tax would be dedicated to this fund, dedicated to filling those sidewalk gaps, those trail gaps in our network. That comes out to about $50 to $60 million a year, which is far and away more than we have available to us now in the region to build these types of projects. Locally, we can build some smaller projects. Regionally, we've got some federal sources to build some of the larger links. But we've been to different cities around the region. Everyone has projects that they really want to build that have been in plans. I know the city's updating the active transportation plan now. That this would be really hitting the sweet spot in terms of a resource to advance those types of projects. So when we think about those types of projects, for about the last 6 to 9 months, we've been working with every single jurisdiction within the CODA service area. Everyone has had the opportunity to participate in this. This is probably about 30 plus meetings. My calendar's been full, but it's been fruitful. We've identified what projects could be considered transit supportive, identify what those local priorities are, and the people who know their communities best know what those needs are, and then working to align that with that expected revenues to come in. So we've been working on this for the last several months, and we are at the point now where we are finalizing a draft capital improvement program through 2030 to identify those first fruits of this program. So what does that mean for Gahanna? So for Gahanna, we've worked with city staff who've been very instrumental, not only just figuring out projects, but how this program should be able to benefit the entire region. So I'm very thankful for city staff for that. But this includes building out the Big Walnut Trail, both within Gahanna and to neighbors to the north and to the south. Also looking at burgeoning residential areas to the north, east, and the southwest, as well as trying to connect a lot of mixed-use development towards the south of town, towards the east. So I'm going to let you see some of the proposed priority projects within that. I will say that all of these are priorities for this program. We're working to identify which of these we can actually advance by 2030 in that first program. So if you have any questions about this, I'm happy to answer those later, or you can contact city staff for that. But with that, I'll turn it back over to Kim to bring us home.
Thank you, Ellie. That last ingredient about the communities we build around the transit, or how the transit serves the communities we are in, we have a whole group of stakeholders and discussions going on about equitable transit-oriented development. And it seemed like a jargon, but transit-oriented development's a term that's been used for quite a while, and it's simply what's built around the transit. You've seen, we see examples in like Arlington, Virginia, where that density is really built around those stops. So we know that we need more housing in Central Ohio. There's a lot of jobs coming, and more housing is needed. In the study, the Insight 2050 Corridors concept study evaluated if the majority of housing and jobs could be built along, as an example, 5 of the rapid transit corridors. What would it mean for our region in the long run? And it showed that it could hold 60% of the jobs in housing and make it more affordable to families who could live with one car or even no cars. In that there are all sorts of different housing types that could be infilled and developed along the corridors. So that's just a data analysis, but the truth is we definitely need more housing, but part of ETOD, equitable transit-oriented development, is preserving existing neighborhoods. It's extremely important. So part of the ETOD strategy is anti-displacement within neighborhoods that exist. It's also about creating new housing, business investment jobs. It's also ensuring affordable housing and access to opportunities. So these strategies are being worked on right now with the different municipalities. So here's an example of Cleveland, the Health Line, where in 2008, they built this 8-mile line, $200 million. And what we wanted to point out is since that time, $9.5 billion of private investment has been invested along the line. A lot of housing and jobs have been added since that time to really make focus on a walkable community and easy access to transit. So the desired outcomes of this whole process is really to create great places in the region, and each community defines what's important to them, as everyone does in their comprehensive planning efforts, in your mobility planning efforts. You're defining what's important to you in Gahanna. It's also about increasing equitable access to opportunity, really making it easier for people to get to these jobs that are growing and coming to our region. Accommodating future growth in a productive way, so not everyone has to drive. Improving economic vibrancy for families and people trying to keep on moving. Shaping the future and reimagining the region for shared prosperity. These are all very important. And in our Link Us efforts, our next steps are to continue to engage the communities like we are this evening, to hear from you, your thoughts, your questions, to continue the corridor design and the federal grant process, to bring the ballot language to the board. Actually, that happened. That's a check. That should probably come off. Equitable Transit-Oriented Development Action Plan. We are working on that now. We're hoping to have that on the website by August. Plans for expanding sidewalks, bike paths, and trails. Thank you to our MORPC team that is really coming together. And then the CODA levy in November. And with that, we are happy to take any questions or comments.
Are there any questions from my colleagues? I do have one question. In evaluating the priority TSI projects, did you overlay that with ridership, or how were those projects identified?
Yeah, so we looked at a number of metrics in terms of proximity to high-frequency lines, any transit lines in general, as well as the existing active transportation networks. If you look at that map, the little purple lines are the existing sidewalks and the bike trail. So we try to look at it a holistic view. But all of this was taken into consideration when identifying priority projects, as well as selecting those projects for potential draft CIP.
And are there opportunities for additional considerations for future rounds, I suppose?
Absolutely. This is, when I say this is set up, I mean the entire region, including City of Gahanna staff, have worked to set up this program such that there are annual updates, so that when we can expand this program, past this fall, past next year, to incorporate, more, opportunities for public input, more opportunities to identify projects when you have plans that are updated. Yes, so it's an annual update cycle.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? All right.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you, CEO Tayez Fowler, Ms. Sharp, and Mr. Lewis for being here tonight. We do appreciate your time in sharing with us some of the developments and hopes for Link Us, so thank you. All right, our next item on our agenda is hearing of visitors. We have a number of speaker slips this evening. I'd like to start with Nathan Graves. Mr. Graves, if you could please approach the podium, state your name and address, and you will have up to 3 minutes for your comments.
Okay, hello. I'm Nathan Graves, 165 Brook Hill Drive. Is that all? Did I forget anything? That's everything? All right, I have some notes that I wanted to talk about. So I think the Link Us initiative, in coordination with Zone In, are important steps in tackling the challenges to our growing region with housing and transit, and it is really encouraging to see. As a young person who wants to stay in Columbus, the presence of dense affordable housing that is connected to effective mass transportation is a big factor in me and where I want to live, and for many people my age, it's the same. Link Us will certainly be a positive contribution to our city, but in seeking the support of Gahanna residents, I would like to also advocate and speak for the fuller integration of Gahanna into Link Us. While the issue of investment for areas of low ridership is kind of like, I like to think of it as like a chicken and egg thing, evidence from other transit systems is clear. Systems that are invested in are the ones that produce high ridership. Large portions of Gahanna are completely unserviced by bus, I'm lucky to be in one of the few areas close to a stop and would happily take the bus for my commute to OSU and work. But the stops are not frequent and often lack seating and shade. Furthermore, the 45-minute to hour-long headways and rush hour-only services make using the bus impractical for most people in the city. So I would want to speak to see more high-quality, frequent stops with more coverage and shorter headways. I think these would go a long way, including our city. Basically, bus lines, the ones that are used are the ones that are invested in. I think the goals and initiatives of Link Us are an excellent step for our region that I'm excited for, and I would encourage the fuller inclusion of Gahanna in Phase 2 or sooner.
Thank you, Mr.
Am I good?
Brooks. Yeah.
Cool.
Thank you. All right. Our next speaker slip, I believe, is from Ms. Proctor-Wells. If you could please approach the podium, state your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes for your comments.
Good evening. My name is Stephanie Proctor-Wells, and I live at 795 Ridenhour Road. I'm here tonight to raise some concerns regarding the tree removal of 39 trees on Ridenhour Road. As a citizen of Gahanna, I'm sure you all can agree that Gahanna is a beautiful place to live. We have amazing parks and bike paths, which really bridge the city with the surrounding nature. Amongst those parks and trails, there are also picturesque tree-lined streets. This was actually one of the first things that really made Gahanna stand out to my husband and I as we bought our home on Ridenhour Road almost 10 years ago. For the past decade, we have enjoyed the colorful leaves of fall, the snow-covered branches of winter, the cool shade in the summer, but best of all, by far, are the spectacular blossoms that adorn the trees each spring. Each year, my family and I eagerly await the stunning white flowers that make driving down the street feel more like a movie scene and transports us to somewhere else for just a minute. Our trees also provide homes for many birds, squirrels, and other wildlife that we value as a part of our neighborhood. When my family and I saw the orange spray paint on the trees and then read the notice that we received in the mail, we started developing plans on what we could do to perhaps change this outcome. My 2 oldest daughters, ages 10 and 7, wrote letters to our city forester listing all the things that we love about our trees. Then we created a petition online and walked door to door in our neighborhood, past the marked trees to speak with our neighbors and get their thoughts. We did meet some people who had perhaps damage to a tree in front of their house and had requested it to be removed in the past, but the majority of the people were shocked and saddened to hear what was happening to the trees. They agreed with us that these trees made our neighborhood special, and several signed our petition. Since Friday, when we started this process, 39 people have offered their signatures in support of saving our trees. But perhaps more importantly than the beauty, charm, and shade of these trees is the safety that they offer our community. Drivers passing through our neighborhood frequently do not obey the speed limit. Oftentimes they're traveling and trying to find a shortcut from 62 to Morris Road, and unfortunately our street has become an option for that. The speed does need to be addressed at a different time, and there's another meeting for that. But for right now, we fear that this problem will only worsen if our trees are removed. Field studies by researchers have confirmed that tree-lined streets or streets with trees in the median actually promote traffic calming, which is a phenomenon where motorists are given psychological or instinctual clues to slow down. Think what we do with barrels in a construction zone. The study showed that these tree-lined streets signal the motorist that they are approaching an area. I'm sorry. I have about 30 seconds. Is it okay that I continue?
If you would just finish your sentence, and then we can, we'll need to move on to the next.
So the study showed that there are, the study showed that there are tree-lined streets that signal the motorist that an approaching area where pedestrians and bicyclists are commonly around, and they trigger their need to slow down. This is another point that I wanted to mention. There are more, but thank you for your time and listening. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Ms. Proctor-Wells. All right, our next speaker slip tonight is from Arlene Sheik. If If you would please approach the podium, state your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes for your remarks.
My name is Arlene Sheik, and I live at 1410 Sedgefield Drive. Rob Jackman, Stanford University climate scientist who heads Global Carbon Project, told NBC News, fossil fuel pollution is warming the natural systems like wetlands and permafrost. These systems are releasing even more greenhouse gases as they heat up. We are caught between a rock and a charred place. What can citizens in Gahanna do to lessen this fossil fuel crisis? We in Gahanna can choose clean, sustainable energy sources and obtain the lowest possible bulk rate. We can buy credits for renewable energy generated elsewhere in the country. We have the opportunity to reduce the use of fossil fuels and do our tiny part to make a difference on our threatened planet. My husband and I are already in the contract that promotes solar and wind energy in the AEP system. We are proud to live in a city that promotes, but does not coerce, businesses and residents to join with local government to support what is called aggregation. I expect that our household will make the transition to whatever contracted source this council selects. We hope that council will receive strong backing for this proposal, which supports the healthy environment that we all seek for our children, grandchildren, and future generations. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sheik. Our next speaker slip is from Donnie Murray. Mr. Murray, if you would approach the podium, state your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes for your comments.
Thank you, everybody. Donnie Murray here. I live at 169 Rugby Lane, best place in Gahanna, in my opinion, with my 5-year-old and my 3-year-old son, and my wife, Brittany, who is watching my kids so I could come out here and be an active member of the community. First off, thank you to council for allowing me the time to speak today on clean energy aggregation and for all the work you've done so far related to this matter. Super excited about it personally, but I'd like to ask you to take a moment to imagine. City of Gahanna has just done an RFI for a new waste hauler. Somebody come pick up the trash here. What would we say if during that RFI, one of these waste haulers said, you know, only 50% of that trash I collect is actually going to go to a municipal landfill? I think council here would probably ask the smart question of, where is the other 50% going? What's going to happen with that? What if they were to tell us, oh, we're going to dump it in the Big Walnut Creek here, or we're going to put it outside of the high school? Obviously, that would be an unacceptable answer. Nobody's going to do that, not in our day and age, but that's what we're doing today with carbon pollution. And if we were to select not 100% clean energy aggregation provider, they are dumping that carbon pollution into our atmosphere. They are making our community less safe, making our environment less stable, which is not good for anybody here in our community. We, as citizens and as a council, have a responsibility to our community to do better and to select 100% clean energy aggregation provider. It allows residents the choice to save money, and as we know, fossil fuel dependent electricity providers are only going to become more expensive as the extraction cost increased, as cost of compliance, as we drive towards reducing the impact of climate change continues to provide increased cost, and as our society demands that. As a CPA in the community, I appreciate the fact that the numbers also speak for themselves. Other local communities who have made the choice to do 100% clean energy aggregation have beaten the current AEP rate, so providing consumers in our community a cheaper rate, as well as protecting our environment. Overall, we're going to get to 100% renewable energy in the future. The market's headed that way, but as a citizen and resident of the community, I ask council to select 100% clean energy provider for aggregation, for the safety of our community, for the stability of our climate, and for my 5-year-old and 3-year-old as well. Thank you. Go Rugby Lane.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Murray. Next speaker slip this evening is from Lauren Koch. If you could please approach the podium, state your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes for your remarks.
Thank you. Good evening, council members. My name is Lauren Cook, and I've been a Gahanna resident now for over 6 years at 1035 Cloverly Lane. My husband and I have 2 little girls and plan on staying here for life, which is why I felt it was important enough to come in person today to deliver supporting testimony for the upcoming vote on municipal renewable aggregation next week. And I think it's important, I think we've heard it from a few other people, but to take a step back and to say, what's the big picture here? And to me, the climate change headlines are terrifying and more terrifying each week. While it mostly feels abstract, that's somewhere else, it's not our problem, right? Like the Florida rain bombs that we saw, we ourselves are in a heat dome this week, which is unusual. How many of you have had free roof quotes for the severe hailstorms that we had this spring? So what can we do? And as individuals, our household has already selected 100% renewable wind recs. We're looking at solar, hence the need for a new roof coming soon. But that isn't possible for many people in our community, whether they don't yet own their own home or it's just too expensive. So the best thing we can do is what you all are looking at. And I'm really excited and applaud that you're considering moving in the footsteps of other nearby communities to offer this clean electricity aggregation option. The City of Columbus estimates that their program has the impact of taking over 400,000 gas-powered cars off the road annually. That is not insignificant. So to state it more clearly, I'm here to support the proposed action by City Council to create a municipal renewable electricity aggregation, as this can potentially save our citizens money on their electricity bills, distinguishes us as an innovative community in Central Ohio, and provides an equitable way for tenants or others to access renewable energy. And 2 other quick notes. We heard from another hearing visitor today about the removal of trees in her neighborhood. And while I'm not sure what the reason is for this, hopefully there's a logical one, such as the trees have disease or is otherwise unhealthy or invasive. But trees are one of the best lines of defense that we have to combating climate change. So whether that's lowering the urban heat island effect, improving air quality, or even reducing stormwater runoff, I would implore City Council to look into this matter and to help us keep the trees that we already have, in addition to the wonderful work that you've been having to offer more trees. And then finally, I would be remiss if I did not also mention that my husband, Aaron Cook, strongly urges you to consider offering street leaf pickup removal in the fall. Thank you so much for your time today and for your consideration of clean electricity aggregation next week.
Thank you, Ms. Cook. All right. We have a final in-person speaker slip and then 1 video upload. Ms. McCorkle, if you could please approach the podium, state your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes for your comments.
Clock?
Ready?
Kathy McCorkle, 677 Piccadilly, Gahanna. Before the vote on Resolution 0021, 2 homosexuals gave a presentation. A Gahanna teacher, Mr. Wagner, gave details of his sordid sex life and how he's been a victim for his sexual preferences. I'm a victim too for my beliefs, Mr. Wagner. At my job, a homosexual didn't like expressions of my faith, so he told my supervisor lies about me. Upon leaving a Gahanna school board meeting, a student followed me out, uttering nasty verbiage about my expressed views on gender indoctrination. Last fall, a member of a Gahanna left-wing organization mocked my faith to my face. I exercised my right to speak before the City Council in February, and afterward, some council members publicly insulted and attacked me, all because they didn't like my views. Everyone's a victim at some time, Mr. Wagner. We don't live in a perfect world. There will always be victims, and you're not the only one, so get over it. It's to a man's glory to overlook an offense. We are to love our fellow human beings, but it's wrong to support and promote their sins. Loving people means telling them truth. Hating people means telling them lies. But God is not mocked. For this reason, God gave them over to degrading passions, for their women exchanged natural relations for that which is contrary to nature. And likewise, the men too abandoned natural relations with women and burned in their desire toward one another, males with males committing shameful acts and receiving in their own persons the due penalty of their error. Just as they did not see to acknowledge God, God gave them up to a depraved mind to do those things that ought not to be done. Mayoral proclamations and council resolutions are now issued each June celebrating the same groups, the sexually deviant and those who would harm children. It's never the natural family's turn to be honored in this town. The proclamation says all are welcome. As a 47-year resident of Gahanna, I'm not sure I feel welcome here any longer. Today, as a resident of Gahanna, I'm asking Gahanna businesses and residents to join me in celebrating June 2024 as Straight Pride Month. It's natural, it's worked for thousands of years, and you can make babies. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McCorkle. We have one final speaker slip this evening. It's for a video upload from Megan Ford.
Hi, I'm Megan Ford, and I live at 645 Tall Oaks Drive. My husband and I have lived here for about 10 years. We have 3 kids who are about to enter the school system, and we plan to stay here for a while. As I think about my children's future, I want to do everything I can to impact climate change, as this is a real concern of ours. While we're fortunate enough to have been able to put solar panels on our roof, we recognize this isn't an option for all residents, and we want to support our community doing more. So this is why I support the City Clean Electricity Aggregation Program. Thank you for your leadership in considering this important issue for Gahanna residents.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Van Meter. Are there any other speaker slips tonight?
No additional.
Thank you. That concludes Section D of the agenda tonight. The next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. I will note that under item 3, we have an ordinance for second reading with emergency adoption, which is the salary amendment ordinance to amend the salary. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as published?
So moved.
First by Mr. Renner.
Second.
Second by Mr. Schnetzer. Any discussion? No. Okay. Mr. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Renner.
Yes.
Schnetzer.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
McGregor is absent. Padova.
Yes.
Weaver.
Yes.
Bowers.
Yes. All right. Motion carries. The consent agenda has been adopted as published. Section F, ordinances for introduction and first reading. Mr. Van Meter, would you please read ordinances appearing under Section F of tonight's agenda?
Ordinance 0042-2024, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to provide consent and enter a participatory agreement with the Ohio Department of Transportation for roadway maintenance and repair on Hamilton Road and Granville Street. Ordinance 0043-2024, an ordinance granting a deed of easement of 0.044 plus or minus acres to BSOH HQ LLC, a private entity also known as Burns and Scalo, for the purposes of stormwater drainage onto city property adjacent to the development located at 1070 Tech Center Drive. Lastly, Ordinance 0044-2024, an ordinance authorizing supplemental appropriations, general fund for Clark State Multi-Use Path Feasibility Study.
Thank you, Mr. Van Meter. Next section on the agenda is correspondence and actions. Mr. Van Meter, we have one correspondence and action item from your office.
Yes, Council, this is the Ohio Division of Liquor Control's order regarding the previous matter known as Eagle Academy of Columbus, Inc., doing business as Campus & Co., Columbus at 460 Havens Corners Road. Council had voted to request a hearing from the division. A hearing was heard. The city attorney had attended that meeting. If you have any further questions regarding the matter, please direct those to City Attorney Tamara Larison.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Van Meter. Anything else from council under correspondence and actions tonight? All right. Next section on the agenda, representatives. First up, Mr. Renner and Mr. Weaver on Community Improvement Corporation.
We have nothing to report in detail, but there is a meeting with CIC and council tomorrow morning at 7:30 at the Gahanna Golf Course. I believe that's correct. I have not seen an invitation. Have you seen the committee?
There was an invitation sent last week, and actually it will be at the committee room due to a conflict of room. So in the committee room here, 7:30 tomorrow morning.
Good. Thank you
With coffee.
for that correction.
Thanks.
Okay. I will not be at this meeting tomorrow because I do have a conflict with my day job.
All right, great. We'll see everyone at 7:30 tomorrow morning here in the committee room. MORPC report from Mr. Weaver.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. Just a few items this evening. The MORPC Commission held its commission meeting on Thursday, June 13th. I was happy to attend virtually. I was able to see the mayor there in person, but unfortunately my day job kept me from attending in person. In terms of a legislative update, state lawmakers are continuing to get closer on finalizing a bill to appropriate $700 million in one-time strategic community investment funds. Meanwhile, the capital budget and funding for the Ohio Public Works Commission remains to be addressed. You can read more in the June 2024 legislative update from MORPC. Money Mondays, always a big hit. Some upcoming topics. On July 8th, affordable housing and rural housing efforts in Lancaster. On July 15th, working with the Chamber. On July 22nd, we'll hear from the Village of Somerset's Tom Johnson and Tracy Johnson. And on July 29th, MORPC planner and a consultant pool for members. A couple of upcoming events I want to make folks aware of. On Tuesday, August 6th at MORPC, save the date for MORPC's annual social media summit. This year's summit will focus on a variety of topics related to social media, including misinformation and compelling storytelling through social media. More details forthcoming. And lastly, on Thursday, September 26th at the Wigwam Event Center in Pickerington is the Safe Streets Central Ohio Creating Vibrant Communities event. It's an annual event hosted by MORPC in collaboration with various partners to highlight efforts throughout the region to reduce the number of traffic fatalities and severe injuries on our roadways. Opportunity for decision makers, government officials, transportation professionals, healthcare professionals to gather, collaborate, and advocate with one another. It was nice to welcome President and CEO Tejas Fowler here this evening. She also spoke with MORPC at the commission meeting, and would just like to welcome her to CODA and to Gahanna as well. I find I've been fortunate to sit through the Lincus presentation several times, and I always pick up something new. So my gentle urge to my colleagues and to myself to go back and review everything, because it does help the information stick. It's a lot in a short amount of time. But that is it for my MORPC report, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Weaver. Convention and Visitors Bureau, Councilwoman Padova.
Thank you. I'm sure most of you were at the Creekside Blues and Jazz Festival over the weekend. I know I saw a lot of you there volunteering. Everything went well. On Saturday, I wasn't in town for most of the day. I came home around 7 and cars were parked down my street to my driveway, and that's always my sign that the festival is going well if they're parked all the way to my house. So thank you to all of the supporters, everybody who went to the festival, and especially to all of the volunteers and GPD. I know there are a lot of people who are either volunteering or working and spending their pretty much entire weekend, 3 full days at that festival. So thank you to everyone who contributed to that. That's all for me.
Thank you, Ms. Padova. Councilwoman Jones, School Board?
I do not have an update tonight, but we'll look forward to one in a couple weeks, so thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. All right, official reports. Mayor Jadwin.
Thank you very much. Appreciated Morpsey being here this evening. I appreciate also Councilman Weaver's reference to the Morpsey meeting last week. I had the pleasure of taking our 3 Morpsey interns with me to that meeting. And they had the opportunity to sit in and to actually get to see the work that Morpsey does and how it impacts the regional planning that's happening in all of our communities for growth. The meeting also included a pre-meeting presentation by Emily Smith of Intel, who provided updates on the current status of that project. That project is now a $28 billion project. It has grown by $8 billion since it was first announced in 2022. And they also made the announcement, you may have seen on the news, that the first of 4 superloads is currently in transit from the southern banks of the Ohio River in southern Ohio all the way up to its destination in Licking County. It's going to take 10 days to get there. So again, it's the first of 4 that'll be making its way through. Then the last one, I believe, is supposed to come through in August. And she did share photos of how quickly that site is developing and building. And it is quite amazing just how quickly that massive, massive development is happening. The Link Us presentation tonight, I very much appreciated them being here. I think it also highlights the importance of the work that we are currently doing on the development of our active transportation plan. So as you know, over the last several months, our Department of Parks and Recreation has been working with outside consultants on the development of an active transportation plan. Mr. Lewis from Morpsey referenced those several times throughout his presentation. As you know, that plan is being developed thanks to a grant from ODOT, who engaged engineers. Back in February, a community survey went out asking our residents to identify areas around the community where they could see additional trails or sidewalks are needed or pedestrian crossings need to be improved. Since that survey went out, our consultants have been working on identifying projects as well. So far, they have at least 60 projects that have been identified throughout the city. On June 25th from 5 to 7 p.m., that's next Tuesday, we will have an open house here. The consultants will be here to share those projects that they have identified thus far. And our steering committee met probably about a week and a half ago. Councilwoman Jones, I know, was there, and we worked on those projects and identifying those as well. I strongly encourage and invite our residents to show up for that meeting. This is an opportunity to look at the projects that have been identified, to help the consultants prioritize what are those top projects, and perhaps even identify projects that they have not thus far identified to be included in the plan. That plan, once it's finalized and adopted by council, will then help us to roll those projects into our CIP as well. And then eventually into the CIP that's part of the Link Us program as well. So this is a tremendous opportunity for our residents. Again, invite them to participate next Tuesday from 5 to 7. I will shift as well to this past weekend. It was a wonderful weekend for the 25th anniversary of the Blues and Jazz Fest. And as we celebrate 175 years since the founding of Gahanna, I think celebrating the 25th anniversary of that event is particularly significant. That event, as you may know or may not know, started as a half-day celebration to commemorate the opening of Creekside Park and what was then the start of the revitalization of what is now known as the Creekside District. There was an organization back then known as Gahanna Events. Board members Sadiqa White, Carla Wilkie-Jones, Bev Medcalf, Bobby Burba, among a handful of others, helped to present that first festival. By year 3, it was so popular it came back the next year. Then by year 3, it became a 3-day event. And I don't know how many of you know, but William Murdoch, Executive Director of MORPC, was the first festival chair. We laugh about that all of the time. And he actually was at the festival yesterday and sent me some pictures of the big field on the other side of Creekside Park that is now Prairie Land, where the very first community stage was located. That was my first year of volunteering and running the community stage. So we kind of giggled over how much the event has grown. But it certainly has grown thanks to the staff of Visit Gahanna, the planning committee, all of the thousands of volunteers throughout the years who have contributed to that event, to the sponsors who participate and support that event. And of course, this past weekend and every year when that event is presented to the Departments of Parks and Recreation, Public Service, and Division of Police. I know how hard they work that weekend. It's a long week for them, and this week will be a long week as well because the festival's not over for them. They're still cleaning up and putting away and getting things back to normal, but it is always amazing to me that by 9:30 Sunday night, you can drive down Mill Street and it's as if nothing had happened that whole weekend. We heard many compliments from residents and visitors that how safe they felt. They saw our officers everywhere, and how comforting it was for them to be able to come out to a family-friendly event and feel safe in attending that. So kudos to all of our team, kudos to the Visit Gahanna staff, and the many volunteers for bringing that event as well and having such a wonderful celebration. Just a couple more things. Today is the start of a year-long project on the rehabilitation of the Hamilton Road Bridge. ODOT is beginning that work. Initial work will focus on areas around 270. I'm just bringing that up because as that project continues to evolve, obviously there will be traffic impacts. So as we receive details from ODOT, we will share them at gahanna.gov. There's a latest news bulletin. We'll continue to update that. We will also post them on our social media pages. You could help us out by sharing that information when those updates are posted so that we can get that word out to our community as well. But again, that project is expected to last through summer of 2025. And then just some things coming up this week, many opportunities for things to do. Midweek at the Creek is Wednesday. Returns might be a little hot, might want to sit in the shade, but the music will still be great. Juneteenth, Wednesday evening as well, starting at 4 p.m. At Shepherd Nazarene Church. Thanks to the efforts of Mr. Ron Ransom, we will have our very first Juneteenth celebration with a gospel tribute. He has lined up a fantastic array of folks from Gahanna and outside of Gahanna to help celebrate that event. Tickets are available at gahanna175.com. Friday evening, we have our first Cinema Under the Stars at Friendship Park. If you are a fan of Super Mario Brothers, that is the movie being shown. It will start at dusk. And then the next morning, you can head to Headley Park for our Household Hazardous Waste Collection in partnership with SWACO. Again, Headley Park, Saturday morning, that'll run from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. Again, go to gahanna.gov. A full list of what is acceptable and will be taken that day is posted there. And then our active transportation plan open house I mentioned next Tuesday, and then next Wednesday, the first annual Gahanna Community Pride Night, which is being organized by the Gahanna Pride Network, will run from 6:30 to 10 p.m. at Hanna Park. And that is all I have for right now. Thank you.
A full month of June and still another month of June left to go.
I know.
Okay.
It's amazing we're halfway through, and the next 2 weeks are still going to be very packed with a lot of power.
Good things for the community to engage with too. City Attorney Tamala Larison.
Yes, thank you. I do have one litigation to report on today. During my annual report, I informed the council that there was a workers' compensation appeal, Cochran versus Gahanna, that had been dismissed, but there was a year for them to refile. They did timely refile. However, just last week, they voluntarily dismissed their case, and so that litigation is now closed officially. I have nothing else. Thank you.
Thank you, City Attorney. All right, council comment. Ms. Jones.
Nothing else from me this evening. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Padova.
Thank you. I was able to make it to the splash pad this morning and just wanted to remind everybody that it is free from 8 a.m. to noon. It was very, very, there were a lot of kids there, not too many, but a lot of kids there having fun, playing. I believe Maria Montessori has a quote that's something like play is the work of children, and if that is the case, then there was a lot of hard work being done at that splash pad today. So it was really nice just to see all of the kids squealing with delight, and when the pool opened up at noon, everybody kind of just slowly walked away, and it was lovely. So highly recommend taking the kids there, especially this week with the weather being so hot. That's all for me.
If I could, you reminded me, I forgot to mention that in light of this week's temperatures, we will be opening the splash pad even while the pool opens. So typically, the splash pad is open until the pool opens, and then after the pool closes, it will be open throughout the day in light of the temperatures.
Even more reason to go.
Even more work can be done.
And that's all week long?
I believe so, yes. Well, again, we'll post that on social media when we have to make sure we have staffing in place to monitor that. And I know Director Farrell was working on that today. So we'll post that as, it might not be tomorrow, it might be Wednesday, but we'll post that in social media as soon as it's available.
Great. Thank you, Mayor Jadwin.
Thank you.
All right. Mr. Renner.
Yes, thank you. It was a pleasure to see my good friend Keena Smith here. And thank you, Councilwoman Jones, for that wonderful resolution for that. Ms. Smith is an amazing woman, and so she's worked at the City of Columbus. She worked at the county. She was on one of our deputy county administrators for a little bit. And now I get to hear her other part of her story. And it's a wonderful story to hear. I want to thank the Linkus and CODA presentation. It's fascinating to me that Central Ohio has been struggling with this transportation conundrum for many, many years, and we get teased about passenger rail and what have you. I do think that the Linkus project is actually in the right direction. It is the marriage of transportation with mobility, and it is taking on quite a feat in capital improvements as a correction for the urbanization sectors that should have been done over probably the several, maybe 30 years or so. So this is actually a really good project that we should actually adhere to, look to, investigate it, test it as we walk up to the November elections. And as already talked about is the heat, and I'm delighted to know that the splash pad is going to be open. I just want to ask everybody, if you don't know anything about heat exhaustion or heat stroke, please definitely take the time out to learn what the symptoms are, what the signs are. I personally have witnessed it among one of my friends. It is something that actually happens there's no predictor, and it happens pretty fast. So please be very mindful of the heat, learn those symptoms, and, slow down. We don't, none of us actually have to work as hard as you think you have to. And just when you're outside, please slow down, make sure that you have ample amounts of water. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Renner. Mr. Schnetzer.
Thank you, Madam President. I was going to say it was good to see Gahanna's signature event. The Creekside Blues and Jazz Fest was well attended. Fortunately, the weather cooperated. As we all know, that's not always the case. I had the opportunity to work one of the admission gates on Friday, and as luck would have it, I was positioned near a stage that my young neighbor was playing on, and it was great to see young musicians perform in public like that, especially when you consider that the talent was really cultivated here at home. I can remember when he was just a wee lad, going to Michelle Tuesday music school, and then later Gahanna School of Rock, and lastly participating in the high school music program. So I just think that's a testament to some of the opportunities that are available to our youth here in this community, and just again underscores some of what makes this community great. That's all for me.
Thank you, Mr. Schnetzer. Mr. Weaver.
Thank you, Madam President. I hope folks had a happy Father's Day. It was nice joining my siblings and celebrating my dad and some of my brothers who are also parents. So a great time had by our family, but I know that the day can be difficult for many, and so I send my love and thoughts to those folks as well. Huge, I don't want to sound like a broken record on repeat, but a huge thank you to Visit Gahanna, all the volunteers, Department of Parks and Recreation, Public Service, our Division of Police for the very successful Blues and Jazz Festival. I think I picked the best day to volunteer on Saturday afternoon. The weather was gorgeous, not too hot, and I got to shuttle musicians back and forth from the stage, and local folks as well as folks traveling from around the state. It was very informative, and I had a great time, and I mean, the music just could not be beat. So really wonderful event as always. So again, thank you. And that is all for me, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Weaver. All right, just very briefly, thank you, Ms. Jones, for bringing in Ms. Smith this evening. It was incredibly empowering, uplifting, and just joyful to see a room full of women entrepreneurs, and they feel so, like the freedom just rolls off of them because they are so empowered by being entrepreneurs. And so thank you for bringing that joy into this room. Thank you again to all who shared comments tonight. I appreciated how Ms. Cook connected the importance of street trees to sustainability efforts and safe and active transportation. So these three sort of disparate themes are really not that disparate, and really connect to the work that we're all doing here. And I appreciate those comments. I am also looking forward to celebrating Gahanna's own Pride Festival next Wednesday. Big thank you to Katie McBroom. I'm sure we will thank her again after that, but I am excited for that. I think a lot of the community will be as well. On that note, I was fortunate to attend a Pride Policy Luncheon this past Friday, hosted by Columbus Council President Shannon Hardin. He has annually started inviting LGBTQ leaders and elected officials from across the state to discuss harmful legislation in the General Assembly, but also opportunities to celebrate and ensure belonging here at the local level. So there were some really good policy considerations that came out of that discussion, comparing notes with what other communities are doing in terms of ensuring that our communities can be truly welcoming and create a place of belonging for everyone. I've attached my constituent report for May that outlines and identifies activities and constituent correspondence from last month. One update on that is that I also was able to attend the Columbus Metropolitan Club Civil Rights Act after 60 years forum a couple of weeks ago. It was again also very uplifting and a great reminder of how much work there still is to do to ensure equitability and voting access for all of our neighbors. I'll end with wishing all dads out there, but especially the dads here in the room. I hope you all had a wonderful Father's Day. Wishing all who celebrate the holiday of Eid al-Adha and Eid Mubarak tonight. And finally, happy Juneteenth this Wednesday. All right, that's all I have. Thank you. We're adjourned.